you're probably throwing away food that could last for years. Not because it went bad, because nobody told you it was still good. Most families are tossing perfectly shelf-stable food based on a date printed by a marketing department, not a food scientist. And at the same time, the foods they're actually counting on, the ones sitting in the back of the pantry, are quietly losing quality, losing nutrition, and in some cases, silently going rancid. This video is about 14 cheap, easy-to-find foods that outlast almost everything else in your kitchen. And one item near the top of this list has a shelf life so long it almost sounds like a joke. Stick around for that one. Let's get into it. This list isn't based on extreme survival theory or bunker logic. Every item here is something you can find at a regular grocery store. I often for a couple of dollars. The shelf lives you're about to hear are grounded in food science, USDA storage research, and real pantry experience. Some of these you probably already own. The goal is to make sure you're buying the right version, storing it the right way, and actually getting the value you paid for. 14. Bouillon cubes. Let's start with something almost everyone overlooks at the grocery store. Bouillon cubes, the little foil-wrapped flavor blocks, typically sell for under $2 for a whole box, and most people treat them like a backup option. But here's what they don't know. Properly stored bouillon cubes can last 2 to 3 years past their best-by date without any meaningful loss in flavor or safety. They're compact, they're lightweight, and they turn plain rice, plain pasta, and plain boiled vegetables into an actual meal. That matters a lot when you're stretching a grocery budget or working through a pantry rotation. The key is keeping them away from moisture. Once the outer packaging is open, transfer them to a small sealed jar. Humidity is the only real enemy here. A dry cabinet shelf is all they need. Coming up, a common breakfast staple most people buy in small quantities, and really shouldn't. 13. Rolled oats. Rolled oats are one of the most underestimated buys in any grocery store. A standard canister costs around $3 to $4 and gives you multiple weeks of breakfasts. And under the right storage conditions, rolled oats can stay fresh and nutritious for up to 2 years, and in sealed, oxygen-reduced packaging, even longer. The nutritional profile is solid. Fiber, complex carbs, and a decent amount of protein per serving. They're filling, they're versatile, and kids will eat them. That combination is harder to find than most people realize. The enemy of oats is air and moisture. If you buy in bulk, portion them into airtight containers or Mylar bags with an oxygen absorber. That single step can more than double their effective shelf life. 12. Soy sauce. This one surprises people every time. A standard bottle of soy sauce sitting in your pantry, unopened, can last up to 3 years. And once opened, it stays good in the refrigerator for well over a year, often closer to 2. The reason is simple chemistry. Soy sauce is high in sodium and naturally fermented, which creates an environment where spoilage bacteria struggle to survive. It's one of the few condiments that actually earns its shelf space. From a practical angle, soy sauce is a flavor multiplier. It makes plain rice interesting, adds depth to canned vegetables, and stretches simple proteins into something satisfying. Buying a larger bottle rather than the small one almost always makes more financial sense per ounce. Keep it in a cool, dark cabinet and don't overthink it. This bottle will outlast most of what's around it. 11. Dried pasta. Pasta gets bought constantly and stored carelessly. Most families grab a 1-pound box, throw it in a cabinet, and forget it. The good news is that dried pasta is extremely forgiving. Commercially packaged pasta typically maintains quality for 1 to 2 years past its printed date when stored properly. That said, there's a right and wrong way to store it long term. The cardboard box is not a long-term solution. Once open, or if you're buying in bulk, move pasta into sealed airtight containers. Glass jars work well, and so do hard plastic containers with locking lids. This protects against moisture, pantry moths, and humidity shifts. Pasta also pairs with almost everything else on this list. It's a calorie-dense, budget-friendly base that works with canned goods, powdered ingredients, and dried proteins. For the price per pound, very few foods compete. 10. Canned tomatoes. Here's where things start to get serious. Canned tomatoes, diced, whole, crushed, and paste, are one of the most nutritionally dense and longest-lasting items in any grocery store. High-acid canned goods like tomatoes are generally safe and good quality for 18 months to 2 years, and many remain usable and safe well beyond that window. What makes them stand out isn't just shelf life, it's utility. Canned tomatoes are the base of soups, sauces, stews, and dozens of quick meals. A case of canned tomatoes bought on sale can anchor a month's worth of dinners. When buying, check the cans carefully. Avoid anything dented along the seam, swollen, or rusted. Store them in a cool, dry location, not under a sink, not near an oven. Temperature stability is what keeps canned goods performing at their best for the long haul. 9. Dried lentils. Lentils don't get the credit they deserve in American households. In much of the rest of the world, they're a daily staple, and for good reason. Dried lentils can last 3 to 5 years in a sealed container, require no soaking before cooking, and cook faster than almost any other dried legume. They're also one of the most nutritionally complete budget foods available. High in protein, high in fiber, rich in iron and folate. A 1-pound bag costs around $2 and produces a substantial volume of food once cooked. For long-term storage, transfer lentils from their original bag into an airtight container or mason jar. Adding a small oxygen absorber extends shelf life even further. Because they cook quickly, usually in 20 to 30 minutes, they're practical in situations where fuel and time are limited. Don't sleep on lentils. They belong in every serious pantry rotation. 8. Powdered milk. This is where most people get the product wrong and give up on it too fast. Instant powdered milk from a regular grocery store has a shelf life of 2 to 5 years when sealed and stored correctly. Non-fat powdered milk sealed in a nitrogen-flushed, airtight container can last significantly longer than that. The practical value here is obvious. Milk in liquid form lasts days. Powdered milk lasts years. For families with kids, for baking, for coffee, for oatmeal. Having a reliable dairy backup is a real asset. What most people miss is that powdered milk tastes significantly better when it's mixed cold and allowed to sit in the refrigerator for a few hours before drinking. Mixing it warm and drinking it immediately is why so many people dismiss it. Give it time to chill. The experience changes completely. If this list is already hitting differently than you expected, do 2 things right now. Hit like, so this reaches more families who need it, and subscribe if practical pantry content is something you want more of. We've got a follow-up video on the biggest storage mistakes people make with exactly these foods. You're going to want to see it. 7. White rice. White rice is not exciting. It's also not going anywhere. Properly stored white rice in an airtight container with oxygen absorbers can last 25 to 30 years without meaningful degradation in taste or nutrition. That number is not a typo. The reason white rice outlasts brown rice by decades is the milling process. Brown rice retains its outer bran layer, which contains natural oils that go rancid. White rice has that layer removed, which dramatically extends its stability. A 25-pound bag of white rice at a warehouse store costs somewhere in the range of $15 to $20 and represents hundreds of servings. Few foods on Earth offer that ratio of cost to caloric security. For maximum shelf life, store in food-grade buckets or large Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers in a consistently cool, dry location. Avoid temperature swings. Avoid light exposure. Do both of those things, and white rice becomes one of the most reliable long-term investments in your kitchen. 6. Apple cider vinegar. Here's a product that most households already have, and most people have no idea how long it actually lasts. Apple cider vinegar, stored in its original bottle at room temperature, has an essentially indefinite shelf life. The high acidity creates a self-preserving environment. It does not need refrigeration. It does not expire in any meaningful food safety sense. Over very long periods, it may develop a cloudy sediment called the mother. That's not spoilage. It's a natural byproduct of the fermentation process and is completely harmless. Many people seek it out specifically. From a practical standpoint, apple cider vinegar is useful for food preservation, cleaning, wound care, seasoned cooking. It's a multi-purpose pantry item that costs about $3 to $4 a bottle and never needs to be replaced on a timeline. This is a buy-it-once-and-forget-it product, and that's a rare thing to be able to say. 5. Canned fish, canned tuna, canned salmon, and canned sardines. These are protein sources that most families underuse, undervalue, and understockpile. High-quality canned fish typically maintains good flavor and nutrition for 3 to 5 years and, from a food safety standpoint, often remains usable beyond that. The protein density matters. One can of tuna provides roughly 25 grams of complete protein for about $1. There are very few whole foods that compete with that figure at that price point. Canned fish also doesn't require cooking. It's ready to eat directly from the can. In situations where power, a fuel, or time is limited, that's a meaningful advantage. For families concerned about mercury content, light tuna generally carries lower mercury levels than albacore. Rotating through your stock every 2 to 3 years keeps everything within ideal freshness windows. Buy what's on sale. Store what you use. It's one of the simplest and highest value stockpile moves you can make. 4. Honey. This is the item that almost sounds like a myth when you first hear it, and it's completely real. Honey does not spoil. Archaeologists have recovered honey from ancient Egyptian tombs that remain chemically intact. The science behind it is well established. Honey's very low moisture content, high sugar concentration, and natural hydrogen peroxide make it inhospitable to bacterial growth. Commercially sealed honey from your grocery store, unless stored in a cool, dry location away from light, has an effectively indefinite shelf life. The only thing that happens over time is crystallization, and that's easily reversed by placing the jar in warm water. Raw honey, meaning unfiltered, unheated honey, also carries natural antimicrobial properties that make it useful beyond just eating. At roughly $5 to $8 a jar for a decent size, honey is one of the best price to longevity ratios of any food item you can buy. This is an item worth buying in multiples. 3. Hard liquor. Stay with us here because this belongs on a practical preparedness list for reasons that go beyond the obvious. Distilled spirits, vodka, whiskey, rum, and gin have an essentially indefinite shelf life when stored in sealed glass bottles. The alcohol content prevents microbial growth. The flavor may evolve over very long periods after opening, but safety is not a concern. The preparedness value of distilled spirits extends past consumption. High-proof alcohol, anything above 60 proof, functions as a reliable antiseptic for wound cleaning. It works as a fire-starting accelerant, It functions as a barter item in community disruption scenarios, and it maintains monetary value in ways that most pantry food items don't. A mid-range bottle of vodka costs $15 to $20 and has no expiration date. As a multi-use stored resource with barter potential, it represents a different category of value than most items on this list. 2. White sugar. Pure white granulated sugar is one of the most shelf-stable foods that exists. Stored in an airtight container away from moisture and pests, white sugar lasts indefinitely. There is no chemical mechanism by which white sugar degrades in a meaningful way. It doesn't go rancid. It doesn't lose nutritional value. Because sugar, by definition, is caloric energy in its most concentrated form. The only risk is clumping from moisture exposure and contamination from pantry pests. Both are solved by the same solution: a hard-sided, airtight container. From a preparedness standpoint, sugar is a caloric reserve, a food preservative for home canning and jams, and a key ingredient in baking, cooking, and fermentation. A 5-pound bag costs around $4. A 25-pound bag from a warehouse store costs proportionally less. There's no logical argument for not keeping a significant quantity on hand. Sugar also stores well with a small, food-safe desiccant packet to manage any residual moisture. Simple to buy, and simple to store, indefinite shelf life. Few pantry items check all 3 boxes this cleanly. 1. Pure salt. Salt is the oldest preservative in human history for a reason. Pure salt, whether iodized table salt, sea salt, or kosher salt, has an indefinite shelf life when kept dry. It doesn't expire, it doesn't degrade, it doesn't go bad. It is chemically stable in a way that almost no other food can claim. Most households have 1 or 2 small containers. That's a start. But salt plays a role in food preservation that goes far beyond seasoning. It's the backbone of home curing, home pickling, and fermentation. It's used in water treatment. It has wound care applications. It suppresses ice on outdoor surfaces. The use cases extend well beyond the kitchen. A 25-pound bag of pure non-iodized salt can be found for under $10. Iodized versions add the benefit of iodine, a mineral many people don't get enough of, particularly if a disruption reduces access to iodized foods and supplements. Salt is not dramatic. It doesn't have a survival mystique, but it may be the single most versatile, most essential, most cost-effective stockpile item that exists. No pantry is truly complete without a serious supply. 14 items. Most of them cost a few dollars. All of them can last far longer than what most families currently plan for. Here's the practical action step. Don't try to buy all of this at once. Pick the 3 or 4 items on this list that you already use regularly and buy 1 or 2 extra units on your next grocery run. That's it. That's the move. Small, consistent additions to your pantry over time build genuine food security without blowing a budget or turning your garage into a warehouse. The families that are best positioned aren't the ones who spent a fortune all at once. They're the ones who made smart, steady decisions over months and years, buying on sale, storing properly, rotating consistently, and understanding what they actually own. That knowledge is the real advantage, and that's what this channel is here to give you. If this video helped you think differently about your pantry, drop a comment and tell us which item surprised you most. We read them, and if you want to go deeper on storage methods, we've got videos lined up that get into exactly how to extend every one of these shelf lives even further. We're not panicking, we're positioning.